What's up, everybody? It's Gannon here, back with another one of my Star Trek reviews. I'm gonna put Grudge in the thumbnail today. I got trolled. Previews really made it seem like Grudge was gonna be an actual character in today's episode, but I don't know. How much of a character can I expect to come from a cat? He's gonna be in the thumbnail today. I'm sorry if I'm gonna disappoint you. He really doesn't do much. He just shows up in a couple scenes and he's like in a little carrier. That's all fake. But what isn't fake is that this episode was slightly interesting. They're actually kind of writing the DMA to make it so that it's kind of piquing my interest. Also, this was a huge Zora-centric episode today. Gray got to do some stuff. My mental health was disintegrating today like it does every 3 weeks or so. So I went out, I exercised, I feel a lot better now. I'm hype. I just watched some slightly above average Star Trek for Discovery standards, and I'm so ready to talk about it. Let's get into this review, ladies and gentlemen. First off, actually, before I get into the review, a lot of people were commenting last episode talking about like, oh my gosh, look at Tarka's scar on the back of his neck. Gannon, why aren't you mentioning Tarka's scar? Look at it, it's right there. What do you think it is? Yeah, I kind of forgot to mention it in last review. I didn't even think I really wanted to speculate because at the time I honestly didn't have a good answer for you guys as to what I thought it was. Tarka is kind of a mad scientist. He's very talented. He's slightly crazy. It's possible he may be ex-Borg if they haven't like dealt with the Borg already by this point in the time period. It could be ex-Borg because if you remember from Voyager, the fact that 7 and 9 was ex-Borg made her like a superhuman. She was incredibly intelligent. Also, there was a couple times where she just went crazy, like had multiple personality disorder. I honestly think it's just an example of self-experimentation Tarka had done on himself previously just because he's willing to do whatever it takes to like perform a good science experiment. Or they were having that discussion about anger. Perhaps there was just a point in Tarka's life where he got really angry and that scar is a consequence of his anger because he was talking to Book about how he understood the emotion of anger. With all that being said, season 4, episode 6, titled Stormy Weather. This episode is titled Stormy Weather because Zora sung a song. There's a little song and dance sequence this episode, except it was super creepy. I honestly think that everything Zora does is creepy. Honestly, don't completely trust this thing, especially even after this episode. They kind of get along and make up with it at the end, but I honestly think that Zora is going to turn on them at some point. But at the end of the day, I do feel like it's going to be a positive thing. Zora is going to be an asset to them, but at the same time, it still creeps me out. This episode was directed by Jonathan Frakes. Of course, that's Will Riker, so if he's directing it, you know you're at least going to get a decent episode. Maybe not like a above average or like a great one, but just a decent one, which this episode very much was. It is still a good step in the right direction, but obviously just the way this season is going, it's still like lacking for me. I need them to do more and more and more. Episode starts out with Burnham making her own family tree. She was inspired because of the one that she returned to that one alien girl at the end of last episode that she got from that inmate Felix. She talks with Book about this future mission that they're about to go on. They actually have to go inside this subspace rift that is left behind and that was created by the DMA. They believe that if they go inside there and find particles, they will find the evidence they need to actually know who created the DMA and where it came from. And by the end of the episode, they find out one of those two questions. Book is a little bit salty because he's like, we shouldn't be wasting our time on this. We should be going like far away and asking people, trying to get leads. This dude is always trying to jump the gun because he is still emotionally distraught because of the destruction of his planet, which is understandable, but he's just, I don't like Book. I have to say it, I don't like Book. He's a shallow, annoying character. The captains always have these like multiple love interests that they have over the series. They kind of come and go. A captain's really never able to like hold on to somebody and keep them around long enough for them to be a reoccurring character, with the exception of Ben Sisko and Cassidy Yates, of course. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. Like, it's been done before and it's fine. But with Book, it just kind of rubs me the wrong way because this dude is just so unimpressive. He's just a regular guy. He's just a boy toy. He really is just the dude that Michael's supposed to have like a good relationship with. And it's just so unfortunate that Quajon had to be destroyed. It's literally the only thing that's keeping him on the ship and like keeping him as an actual character at this point. God damn, dude. Why are they taking up a character slot with Book? I really wish they would have some really dramatic episode where him and Michael break up. Like, can they not be together for the whole series? I cannot take 3 more seasons seasons of this dude just walking around and doing what he wants without a commission. I'm sorry. Michael and Saru are walking through the hallways before this mission is about to start, and he name drops the Enterprise! The Enterprise, baby! There's an Enterprise in the 32nd century, maybe, kind of. The context of the conversation, he could be talking about a past Enterprise. He doesn't really explicitly state whether there's like currently an Enterprise in commission, but he also mentions the Voyager. We already know that there's a Voyager J. If the showrunners really want to pique our interest and they really want to make us excited about like the future ships, I'm sure if they haven't already, I could just be like talking out of my ass. They might have already done this, but they should actually show us what the 32nd century Enterprise looks like if there is one. That is extremely important. Also, it would probably be pretty deserving of Saru to get the Enterprise at some point. Like, I would not mind if Saru was like flying the Enterprise in the 32nd century. That would be totally fine for me, because as you'll see, I'm about to get into this later, almost like shaping up to be like a better captain performer than Michael at this point. I gotta say, like, people have been memeing, oh my god, Saru's a better captain than Michael. After this scene this episode, I might have to start agreeing with that notion. They do not have a computer anymore. It is literally just Zora. This is the Zora episode. Zora do just be having conversations casually with Michael and Saru on the turbo lift about her sentience and about her emotions that she has developing, and she developed anxieties and fear of failure this episode, which is crazy, and it's extremely creepy. It creeps me out and also creeps out Michael. She's concerned literally the whole episode. The crew is called to the bridge, and Michael briefs them on the mission again. Why does she do this? This is my biggest criticism of season 4. Now that Michael's finally in the captain's chair, why do they take up screen time to have her brief crew every time? That is ridiculous. Clear waste of screen time. You should be filling that up with like extra scenes and just more dialogue and stuff to make me actually like the cast, but instead you're wasting time having Michael give this mission brief. We as the viewer and the bridge should already know that scene should just be omitted. Like in all Star Treks, the captain and crew come to the bridge, everybody's been briefed. Why do they keep on doing this? Doesn't matter how insignificant, like what kind of mission they're doing. Stop doing it. It's just a clear waste of screen time. Just, it's clown behavior. I'm sorry, it's clown behavior. They go to this dead space area and they send out a dot as a precaution. It is completely black. It's a void. They go inside the subspace rift, and it really reminds me of that one episode where the Silence has lease, where the Enterprise in the Next Generation gets pulled into this like dead space rift and they encounter this floating base being that is doing experiments on them. I feel like there's been a couple times where the main ship of a Star Trek show has been like pulled into a dead space scenario and they have to like make it out by the skin of their teeth. So they're in this subspace void, right? And they send out a dot as a precaution and it gets totally eaten up. And Book was eager to go out in there and like investigate. So if Book were to do that, he would have died, which honestly is okay with me. I don't wish death upon anybody except fictional characters. I'm allowed to do that, right? That's okay. I just don't like Book. Dude kind of is so boring. So once they see this, they start to assume that the DMA affects subspace negatively. After this, there's this scene where Gray starts to talk to Zora, and Gray kind of identifies that Zora has anxieties. She's being overwhelmed by everything that's going on right now. She's actually kind of sensing fear. And so Gray comes up with the idea to like have an actual conversation with the computer. I think it's okay and completely understandable for Gray to want to like talk to Zora, except that the repeated criticism that I'm getting, and it's something that I've started to agree with, and also please do not think that if I'm making a criticism of Gray, it's because I have prejudice for them in some way. I'm not a prejudiced person. That shit is beyond me. Gray is just like a boring character and is just like a side character. It's a supplement to Adira, and Adira in herself at this point is not even a fully fleshed out character. So why are we supposed to care about Gray? Gray is just kind of there. The acting isn't like crazy good, it's not crazy convincing, and it's not crazily appealing either. Gray literally sits there and talks to Zora, and Zora says, "You don't have a commission, I can't give you this information," but Zora just gives them the information anyways. They're trying to make us care about them, but they're like these weird little side characters who don't have any real purpose. They don't have commissions. They're not actually truly part of the crew. And honestly, they don't get enough significant screen time, especially Gray, and they don't do enough, and they don't really have a really sense of individuality. So it's very much hard for me to want to like them and appreciate them as characters when they really have not done anything objectively. I just hope that they start doing something more than having a therapy session with the computer. That's all I'm saying. So the phenomenon seems to be closing in, and so Michael asks for more shields. Saru gives the suggestion to dip, and Michael agrees, but they can't actually leave, they find out. Michael gives the order to jump, and Book volunteers because Stamets is slightly busy doing something, and then when they jump, everything goes to absolute shit. Book is then shot with this crazy amount of energy. He starts tripping absolute sack after that, and then he sees this illusion, hallucination. Maybe it really is the spirit of his dad, you never know, but he starts seeing his dad, and Poppy is back. Oh, good old Papa. He's here to give us some words of wisdom, and what does he decide to tell Book? He decides to remind him about all his failures. He decides to berate him and decides to like actually say, why didn't you help Quajon? What were you doing, son? You could have helped Quajon. You suck. He literally implies that he should be hunting the people who did this to Quajon, which obviously invokes some emotions in Book. I bet at the end of this episode, he literally talks about how angry he is and how he wants to destroy the people who made the DMA. They go to sickbay after Book has that little electric shock to him, and they find his neural transmitters are going crazy off the wire. Dr. Pollard is here. She's back, which is cool, I guess. I don't really give a shit. She's not a real character. Stamets thinks he could use the energy left in Book's brain to find out more about the Void and how to escape it. We return back to Gray's game. Gray helps clear up some of the anxiety the computer's having, and the computer is now able to sense something on the external sensors. Gray then tells Zora to inform the captain like immediately. That's something that's kind of concerning. Then a hull breach starts to occur, and while the hull breach is occurring, Dr. Pollard is telling everybody, hey, get the hell out of here. And some eager dumbass ensign, he's like, oh, I have to fix this neural gel pack or whatever here. It's so important. And he basically commits suicide. He falls out and dies in this void, which has got to be probably one of the worst deaths imaginable. Like, imagine not even dying in space, but imagine dying in this weird, like, fold of space where, like, nothing exists. That's crazy. After this happens, though, Gray does, like, talk to Zora about it, and then finds out that, hey, Zora actually does have external sensors now. Goes to inform the captain. Zora shows up as a hologram to the bridge crew, and they come up with the idea of creating a strong signal for her to follow so that they could get out. It's, you know, not too creative a way to escape. Zora instructs them that she doesn't believe that she could actually do it, and Michael orders both her and Gray to join them in their ready room. Book has a pretty decent and heavy scene after this where he's again tripping and having another argument with his father. His father proclaims that he doesn't act because he listens to Michael all the time, and that makes him weak, and he keeps on calling him his real name, which sounds scarily close to just T-Rex. It's kind of funny. Book tells him that he does love Michael and that he's nothing like him, which is very sweet, and then he just kind of parts ways. Stamets and Culber hilariously also just allow him to continue speaking to the hallucination of his father, assumingly because they totally understand that shit. Like, they've done their fair share of existential crisis and tripping balls because of being connected to the mycelial network. There's this cool scene on the bridge, by the way, when things are heating up, where Saru sternly tells Owoshikun to return to her station after she adamantly requests to go contain potential breaches in engineering. And after seeing this scene, I was like, that was a really cool, like, scene of Saru talking to her sternly. It's almost like I kind of enjoy those small little bits of Saru being the captain more than, like, Michael being the captain, because most of the captaining that Michael is doing at this point is her, like, going out and doing, like, Halo spacesuit jumps, and then her briefing the bridge crew when it totally isn't necessary all the time. Zora finally explains and explicitly states that she is a sentient organism living inside a supercomputer. It is actually very stressful for her to do that. Michael gives Zora a pep talk eventually, and Gray, like, says a couple things, but really doesn't say anything significant to the point where it's almost cringe. They get rid of Zora's anxieties about failure, I think. It seems like Zora didn't want to do this simply because she just lacked confidence in her ability to complete the task and doing it safely. They then go back to the med bay where they explain that the particles in Book's brain are only found in the galactic barrier, which is really cool that they reference the galactic barrier. I don't remember the last time in the Star Trek canon that they referenced this. The galactic barrier was referenced in the TOS in that one episode, one where the Kelvins go and hijack the Enterprise and actually take it outside of the galaxy, and they explain that there's actually like almost a physical barrier that surrounds the galaxy and keeps things in and out. They find out that the particles in his head are from the galactic barrier, so they come to the conclusion that the DMA is actually from outside the galaxy, and it's from probably this really cool super race that I hope we maybe have heard of. If we haven't heard of them and there's something new, they better be freaking cool and not disappointing. But all I care about is that this kind of adds some spicy mystery to the DMA. It's getting to the point where I'm slightly interested. I really kind of want to know who's behind it. If they can locate the greatest concentration of these particles outside in the void, then they can escape. It can't be the Kelvins because they became an allied species at some point. There was this scene, and I believe either Deep Space Nine or TNG, whatever one, Worf shows up in both, states that he actually fought a Kelvin like twice his size one time in one episode. Lieutenant Commander Bryce comes up with an idea to find the particles. Detmer says that they won't make it and that their shields will not hold unless Michael comes up with this idea and everybody needs to go into the pattern buffer in order for them to survive the really harsh conditions. This happened in the TNG episode Relics, and then it also happened in this one Voyager episode where they have to hide telepaths from this race of aliens that are prosecuting them. Michael finally gives an appropriate bridge brief, like everybody's maybe potentially about to die. This is the time to do the bridge brief, Michael. And they all go into the pattern buffers. A cool solution. I assume a 32nd century ship has the power to do this and put all the crew members into pattern buffers, considering how casually they're able to transport nowadays. Oshua-kun also apologizes to Saru before they go into the buffer, and it's really sweet. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. It's kind of hard to say. I'm sorry. Book returns to his ship and talks more with the image of his father. It's a bittersweet one, and he decides to treat the illusion as some sort of spirit and actually talks to him. Also, it's funny, the father gives Book this ultimatum telling him that Michael will pick Starfleet over Book and Quajon every time, but Quajon is also super dead and non-existent, so why the fuck does that even matter, dude? You're fried as hell. Michael gives Book a big fat hug before they all go into the pattern buffer, but Michael decides to stay behind and wear this protective spacesuit. It is very creepy on the bridge. Zora is trying to navigate out of the void, but she's like tripping. Oh, I can't do it, Michael. Oh, it's so hard. I'm scared. And then Michael's like, no, Zora, you must take that fear and use it to make better decisions in the future and guide yourself and gain confidence. You cannot allow this fear to consume you. And then Zora's like, okay, Michael, yeah, I'll do that. By the way, temperature's rising. You're gonna pass out now. Let me sing you a song. Ooh, ooh, rainy weather. Michael passed out, and then Michael woke up in sickbay. Ooh, everybody's safe. Zora did it. Really cool. The only casualty was one ensign that didn't matter at all. And then at the end of the episode, we have this ending scene. Book tells Saru that he is super angry at these people outside the galaxy and that maybe he's an angry man, just like his father was. Saru then shares with Book he actually still harbors anger towards the Ba'ul when he sees them at the meetings that he has on Kaminar, because they actually called his people for so long and killed his parents, even though it's been 800 years since then. For Saru, it's only been like less than 5 for real. So yeah, it's a happy ending. Michael and Zora reconvene, and Michael shows her the finished family portrait tree thing. Zora then makes her own family portrait tree thing, and she decides to use every member of the Discovery crew, and it's kind of corny, kind of sweet. I feel like it's the sweetest gesture a supercomputer could do at the time. Perhaps. I don't know. It was a little bit corny, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, that was the episode. That was Stormy Weather. 6 out of 10. It was just like not a 5 out of 10 episode, because there was just a couple moments where I was like, yo, let's go, let's go. And honestly, if you're under a 5, that's like below standards. You kind of have to upset me at that point. This episode didn't upset me. It just wasn't great. It didn't have greatness, but something I will give it a 6 out of 10 for is that now the mystery is kind of piquing my interest. Last season, The burn mystery never really piqued my interest all that much. The way that they were building up to it was extremely poor, but now this DMA, I'm kind of interested now that we know that the enemies who created it are outside the galaxy. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching another one of my Star Trek Discovery reviews. I'm gonna have to see you guys again next week. I'm excited to be making a lot of new and awesome content coming the new year, so I hope you guys are excited as well. I appreciate all the new subs coming in, all the people commenting. Comments literally make me so happy, so keep on leaving them. If you have anything that you want to share with me, if you have anything that you want to talk about with the new episode, leave it down in the comments below. I will be sure 1000% to read it. If you're enjoying any of the content that you see on the channel, I would be very flattered if you're to subscribe. I am irresponsibly getting my neck tattoo after I get 1,000 subscribers, so if you want to see me potentially embarrass myself, be sure to hit that big red button. And with all that being said, live long and prosper, and I'm gonna have to see you guys in the next one. Peace.